They don't know that they're not friends with their insurance company.
Can you describe the business model of typical PA firm, public adjuster, like how ethical they are?
Most states don't require the insurance company to give someone a copy of the policy before they purchase it.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. The hardest insurance company to deal with these days.
So when I'm marketing to contractors, I'm looking for their full book of business. There's a lot of contractors that take offense to that though, probably because they've heard a lot of bad things about bad PAs out there.
Today I have a very special guest in the studio, Mathew Mulholland. My first question, my friend, is who are you? I follow you, I watch your videos. If I would sit on a plane with you next to you and ask you, what do you do? What's the answer?
Well, if we were sitting on a plane, I'd probably say, I want to sit in silence, please. I have work to do. I'm a public adjuster. I've been doing adjusting for some time now, and like many public adjusters out there, I became a policy nerd, but I really enjoy teaching people. So these days, I'm more of an educator role, taking a top-down view for my company so I can get into the trenches with every claim instead of just individualized.
So you're teaching public adjusting?
Teaching public adjusting.
Love it. How much of your success you attribute to your beard? Beautiful beard, by the way. I'm jealous. I don't have patience to grow the beard.
I think the worst part was the mustache, because in order for it to get to this point, I had to go through this phase where it was in my mouth constantly. It was disgusting. Once you get here, you can't go back, because then you have to go back through that phase again, and you don't want to do that.
So how long does it take to grow this?
The mustache was, I have no idea. This just happened overnight. But the mustache was something that I remember very vividly. It took me a solid 3 months to get through. Basically, every time I kissed my wife, I was kissing myself. I was eating everything that I was eating earlier that day. It's just gross. Anyway, yeah, it has become somewhat of my brand. Being able to stand out in a crowd definitely helps. I don't know, 25%.
25%, love it. So actually, I want to pause right here, and I want our audience to like this video if you like this type of deep conversations about industry, roofing industry, insurance industry, public adjusting, all comes together when two influencers get together to collaborate. Comment below if you have ever hired public adjuster. Maybe you're a homeowner watching this video, or you're the contractor. Just comment, I'm a contractor, I've used public adjusters, or public adjusters, highly recommend, or I've never used it, don't want to use it. Wherever you experience it, pause it right now, share the feedback. I'm curious to know, because there's so many contractors who don't know nothing about it. There's so many who, pretty much in bed with the public adjusters. They work almost on every claim. I want to know where you are in the process. Comment below, like the video. My next question is, what's up with the Chet Seltz? I know Chet, he's a good friend of mine. People are thinking he's calling me out in my private group. I've never seen this ever happen in any Facebook private groups, when someone's coming in hot and bashing someone, and he came after you. Obviously you have some conflict, whatever. So Chet has his reputation to go after people. Usually you see a conflict and it goes away. In this case, you have an army of following. That's how you got my true attention, because you have army of people defending you, and it was just amazing marketing campaign. You said it best for yourself. I want to know what was the originals of the story. I guess what's the story there?
Let me start off by saying that everybody that came to my defense, every one of you, thank you so much. Honestly, you choked me up a little bit. It was amazing, friggin' awesome. I didn't expect, I have other enemies out there, so I expected somebody else. Not a single other person made a negative comment. It's amazing.
There was hundreds of comments, 300 comments or so, and people were actually direct messaging me like, why you, because our group is very clean. We don't have a drama. We don't have nasty culture where people just call each other out and arguments. Like, we don't have it. So this was the limit. Like, we'd never have that before. And people are like, are you gonna let this happen? And I'm like, I'm reading comments. I'm like, I don't think I have guts to delete it. Like, it's just too good of the thread.
I'm glad he didn't. Although I probably would have deleted it if I was you too. But I'm glad he let it ride, because that was something unique. But so it all started. I have a Facebook forum for public adjusters. Under our media company, Listen to This Bull. So Listen to This Bull, public adjuster / attorney forum. Chet was a part of that. And I posted on there that there is a lot of comments that run through this echo chamber of all the forums. They say the same thing over and over again, even if it's false information, and it keeps getting perpetually transferred to the next generation of contractors or public adjusters. The statement that I made was that there are consequences to filing claims on act of God occurrences. And then I made that statement and didn't get back on Facebook over the weekend. And apparently a few people disagreed with me, including Chet. He did ask me one question on that post, and if you go back and you read all of your comments on yours, he kept mentioning that he asked questions and I refused to answer. There was only one question on there, and that was whether or not I was an agent, which I said, no, I'm not an agent. But he made a separate post, and it was kind of a dick post. He was insinuating that people who have this great following and fan club, and we just say things to incite those people to gain attention and never admit when we're wrong. But he didn't actually say that that was about me. It was really, it could have been about anybody. It could have been about you. I don't know. Anyway, I booted him off mine after I PM'd him and asked him what that was all about. And he confirmed that he was talking about me, like I suspected. But he just went into this whole...
He was accusing you like you're there for the profit, for the money.
I guess. So, to set the record straight, there are consequences when you file a claim, any claim. It doesn't matter if it's an act of God or not. Will their rates go up, which is really what everybody's concerned about? No, legally their rates cannot go up if you file an act of God occurrence. As an individual, their rates cannot go up for filing that claim. As a zip code, they can. Everybody's well aware of that. Everyone on Facebook is definitely saying the right thing there. But there are other consequences. When you have a claim, it stacks up. If you have multiple claims, you are considered a higher risk individual. The carrier is looking at you in their underwriting department to determine profitability. Are they going to lose a ton of money on you? If you have multiple claims, it doesn't matter what type it is, they're less likely to want to have you as their customer. If you were to sell your house, go buy another one and have to get new insurance, good luck, your rates are going to be enormous. So there are consequences for those policyholders. Just throwing Jell-O against the wall to see what sticks is not the right thing. And that's honestly what I was trying to get at is it's not a good idea to just file claims willy-nilly and expect anybody to be okay at the end of it with no consequences. You can screw people just by filing frivolous claims. Stop it. Don't screw people. It's not cool. So Chet got booted off my thing, and I guess he didn't appreciate that. So he called me a money grubbing Schil. Is that what he said?
Yeah, what does it mean? I love your shirt.
Look Schil.
At that. I love this industry. So the moment you call someone, and he called him Schil, and I'm like, I keep learning. What does it mean?
I have no idea. He spelled it wrong. If he means Schil without the C, then it would be, if you're on stage and I'm in the audience pretending to be a member of the audience, but I'm actually working with you, and I ask questions that actually help you out, then I would be considered a Schil, S-H-I-L-L. S-C-H-I-L-L isn't actually a word, though there is the same definition under the Urban Dictionary. But I don't really know what he was trying to say with the whole Schil thing. It didn't make any sense, but ever since
it's gonna stick
that happened,
now.
I mean, Tyler
Don't
with his
Schil it.
Terminus Construction Group sent me this shirt. Not only did they send it to me immediately, because this happened last week, they drove it to my office last night just to make sure that I could wear it today. Wow. It's pretty crazy.
Love it. By the way, my favorite word with those first three words is schmuck. We used to wear like, schmuck is like those schmucks out there.
I call my kids schmuck constantly. My dad's been calling me a schmuck since he was 25 or so.
Love it. How many public adjusters do we need? I see this huge rise of public adjusters. And is it because insurance companies are changing the way they do business? Do we have enough, or there's still big niche for public adjusters? Some markets definitely don't need more contractors, and I would say like Chicago has enough of contractors.
Right.
Is it true for public adjusters in Chicago, for example?
So I'm not 100% on these statistics.
Sure.
But roughly 5% of claims have a public adjuster in them.
Okay.
Which means that there is a lot more room for more public adjusters. The way the laws are coming out restricting what contractors can or can't do, there is definitely a vacuum for new public adjusters in most states. In any state that actually has licensed public adjusters, perhaps with the exception of Florida, because they have a ton of public adjusters. Most states need more. If claims aren't going to be able to be represented properly because contractors' hands are tied, then there does need to be more public adjusters. And contractors and public adjusters can get along. There's a symbiotic relationship there. So I think that there needs to be more, but there also needs to be good training for it. You can get a license to be a public adjuster and learn definitions and what types of policies there are, but you don't have anything really available. There's very limited classes, boot camps right now available for how to be a public adjuster, how to actually do your job. That's something that we're getting into the market of. We've started National Claims Institute. I hope I didn't get ahead of you on your question list.
No. Who makes good public adjuster? What background do you recommend? Do adjusters from insurance companies make good public adjusters?
So I was a roofer.
Okay.
I would like to say I'm a good public adjuster, but I'm biased as hell. Insurance adjusters definitely can make good public adjusters. I don't think that there is a specific background that says you're going to be good or you're going to be bad.
But is there a training, like do insurance companies have good training for their adjusters, or?
Some carriers do.
Some do.
Not all of them. I've got a lot of friends that are on that side, and some of them have had zero training. A lot of insurance adjusters, especially with the ones that don't get much training, they actually learn from doing things in the field. They'll learn from contractors and they'll learn from public adjusters in the field. They love learning about policy language from public adjusters. There are a few insurance companies that will actually train their people, but these days I don't know how true that is, to be honest. Most insurance companies are sending out a third-party person that's not a licensed adjuster at all. Might be a ladder assist. They don't know anything about insurance policy or how to be an adjuster. They're definitely not trained to do that.
I'll ask follow-up right away on the ladder assist. What's your take on them? Because ladder assist they're not public adjusters. They're like, what's the business concept there, and like, what's your take on it? What's your experience with them? Because when they came in, like, there was like brand new, like disturbing everything that we have, and now I see more hate than anything else from contractors, at least. So that's why I'm asking public.
That's something that has evolved quite a bit. Originally, ladder assists were literally someone that showed up with a ladder so that an adjuster that came from out of town didn't have to bring his ladder with him. He could fly somewhere and have someone show up with a ladder at their loss to do their inspection. That's why they're called ladder assists. But then they eventually started doing the inspection. I think it was, now I'm drawing a blank, Hancock. Hancock guys really started this inspection activity thing in a large scale format. There might have been some smaller ones before them. But they were training their guys to do the inspection, and the idea was that the ladder assist would get off the roof, provide all the documentation to the adjuster that's on site, and that adjuster would still be able to make a determination. And that way the adjuster didn't have to climb on a roof and risk their own life, which reduced the overhead of the insurance carrier because they didn't have to pay for the extra insurance rates of their insurance adjusters. They basically hired a third-party company to have the risk of falling off the roof. But lately, that licensed adjuster on the ground isn't there anymore, and the ladder assists are going out by themselves. And now there's a desk adjuster that's looking at photos, definitely can't see anything on site, and the ladder assist is making determinations on stuff that they don't necessarily know anything about, especially when it comes to flat roofs or commercial roofs. You wouldn't believe what I've seen on some of these reports from ladder assists on flat roofs. I don't think the ladder assist thing is a good thing. I think that most policies make the assumption that there's going to be a licensed adjuster on site. The policyholders are owed a proper investigation. It's required by law. Is a proper investigation actually happening from the carrier side if they're using untrained experts, their ladder assists, and not having a licensed adjuster there on site to do any kind of investigation of their own? I don't think they are.
So that they don't have licensed adjusters?
As far as I'm aware, I haven't seen any ladder assist companies. There probably are. There probably are some licensed adjusters, probably, but I've never met one. Now, to be honest, to be fair, every time I've met with a ladder assist, it's worked out in my favor. Maybe that's because I'm a public adjuster and I have a little bit more authority to work with. And I'm going to take that back. Definitely not every time, but the vast majority of the time. I always found it real easy to become friends with the ladder assist guys, and they would help me out with the adjuster on the ground. But once they became the only person there, it became different. Contractors sometimes get that virtual inspection. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Where the ladder assist is on there with the camera and the desk adjusters on the other end. They don't do that with public adjusters. Mm. If you're a public adjuster on site, they won't do the virtual inspections with a public adjuster, at least not in Georgia, where I'm from. I don't know why they don't, but it seems like if they won't do that for a public adjuster, there's got to be a reason. And if they're not going to do that for them, then why would they do that for anybody else? Or vice versa?
Sure.
One of those is a better service being provided than the other, whether that be virtual assist or not virtual assist. Either way, it should be the same. It shouldn't depend on whether or not the policyholder hired one or the other. I can tell you this is a big fight that's coming. And it's not just public adjusters and contractors that want to take that fight to the carriers. The independent adjusters also want to take that fight to the carriers. They're losing their jobs and their pay rates are diminishing dramatically because it's easier for an insurance company to hire that third party, that TPA firm, whatever it might be. And as long as they have a basis for denial, as long as they can say, our expert that we sent out said this, and that means that there's no coverage, then they can hide behind whatever that expert said. No matter what it is, they can hide behind it, have a basis for denial, and protect themselves from a bad faith case. So getting rid of a third party so that it is them, the insurance company themselves, that's making a determination, keeps them from being able to hide behind bad information and protect themselves from bad faith. It's definitely in policyholders' best interest to have licensed adjusters on site.
How big is ladder assist?
I think that it's probably a mix right now between ladder assists and engineers that are really doing this, but ladder assists are still pretty prominent. I think engineers are actually being used almost like ladder assists these days, and that's getting more and more prominent. Still a split. There's probably 70-30 engineer ladder assist. That's changing. We'll see.
Can you describe the business model of typical PA firm, public adjuster, like how ethical they are? Like I see a lot of people, especially in Florida, saying there's like it's a two-way street. Like I've seen public adjusters saying that every claim should have a public adjuster on it, and let's just slam 10% on each because we're gonna bring value. So that's the value proposition, but also business model for that public adjuster. So I get it that if you fight insurance company enough and long enough, like you will add the value somehow. But how ethical and what's the business model?
That's actually a fairly complex question.
Because it's almost, I mean, public adjuster is pretty much an accusation business. You're pretty much saying, taking claims, saying it's not enough, you made a mistake, or it's not accurate, it's not enough money, you should adjust it, and you start adjusting, which, you know, I get a lot of, I mean, you did not create the industry. Insurance companies create the industry by underpaying claims. Someone have to do, so the gap was there. But now we see public adjusters on the rise. It's no difference than a roofer who don't want to do repairs goes in and say, you need a new roof. By the way, that's the only business I'm in. Like, I can't offer you anything else but a new roof. So we're not going to fix it. We're not going to repair it. We're just going to replace it. Well, do we really need a new roof? Who knows? So the same thing here. Does every claim need to be adjusted? And what's the business model there?
All right, so I'm going to break this down into two very broad categories. You got public adjusters that take on already opened claims or previously adjusted claims. And you got public adjusters that only take on new claims and they file them. So those are the two very broad categories I'm going to give you. And this is a gross summary. The ones that take on the already denied or underpaid claims and things, I think that there's probably a lot more unethical practices on that side. It doesn't mean that if they do that they're unethical by any means.
Of course. But there's more shadiness happening there.
Yes. And I think that is because they are playing defense. Where the public adjuster that gets involved from the claim from the beginning has to play offense. They have to put together the package, put together their estimate and everything. And you can be unethical in that way. You could add everything on Xactimate, every line item possible, whether it's valid or not, or whether you know if it exists there or not, or you can do the right thing and do a proper investigation and actually write the scope of work properly, submit everything the way it is. I think most people that take on claims from the beginning, most public adjusters generally want accuracy. The ones that are taking on the claims that are already denied, they're fighting for scraps. And if the claim already has $20,000 approved and it's a small claim, and the maximum it could ever be is $30,000, the public adjuster can only charge on the new money, that $10,000 gap. So they want to get that gap as big as possible in order to make a decent living. Public adjuster starts from the beginning, gets their percentage on that entire amount. So they don't have to write every weird line item they can possibly imagine here. They can be accurate and be fair, and the claim will go a little bit smoother as a result. I feel like there's going to be a lot of PAs that hate me for these comments right now. I'm not saying that if you are
I'm
taking
pretty
on
sure
claims
our
from
audience is going to love you.
Yeah, they're going to love this. The question was how much unethical practices occur. And there are a lot. And you know it, so shut up. There are public adjusters that do really good stuff and do the right thing, and then there are public adjusters that just try for everything they can. There are states where there is a lot of leverage that a public adjuster can have, and there are states where there's very, very little leverage. And it really depends on what the laws are in that state. If there's a fee shift ability where the attorney's fees are going to get paid if the insurance company acts up, they get a lot of leverage. And those public adjusters in that state can be very effective. They can be overly effective and can get away with a lot of stuff too. The states where there's very little leverage, where everything has to be perfect, the attorney's fees aren't going to get paid, so going to an attorney isn't in the best interest of the policyholder. It's a little bit more difficult to get away with things as a public adjuster. So I think that claims generally go a little bit smoother. Now, doesn't mean they always do, and this doesn't mean they're always overzealous. But there's definitely situations that make things easier for a public adjuster who has propensity to be diabolical to do something in certain states just because the laws are either not fully in place or far too much on their side.
Can you elaborate a little bit more, or do you know the number of splits? What's the split between PAs who do new claims versus work?
there'd be no way for me to know.
But there's no way it's 50-50 because in my understanding, most PAs, they work with the contract. They actually prey on the contractors to bring them claims. It seems to me that...
Like they pray like I'm going to attack you, or the please give me one pray kind of deal.
Well, they advertise to them. They want the contractors to give them their business. That's their proposition. Like, send us your claims. You know, you're leaving money on the table. That's their marketing message. Like, that's what I hear from most PAs.
That's praying.
Well,
no, technically, I guess you're praying on homeowners.
Well, praying for me will be in GMs. Like, if someone goes on the Facebook and is like, I have the claim, and like you'll have like, 20. Like everybody wants that business.
Yeah.
It's they're looking for those.
I think I know the answer to your question. Now, I think most public adjusters start by getting claims that are denied or underpaid, and they'll go to contractors. Think of it this way: if you're trying to get the most return on investment for your advertisement dollars, then you want to go to one source that's going to give you a lot of work instead of a bunch of individual sources. So it makes sense for a public adjuster to market to contractors because the contractor is going to market to a lot of individuals and can refer business to that public adjuster. But the contractors can pray right back at the public adjusters. I'm going to use your word against you a little bit. They can just send the crappy, shitty claims to the public adjuster. The ones that are the toughest insurance companies that almost never get approved, or the ones where the adjusters are especially difficult, or to insurance carrier that is just crap. Those kind of claims get sent to a public adjuster more than any other type. Now, as a public adjuster, if I'm getting the bullshit claims in, I have to deal with those because I took them on. I have to actually work those claims. I can't just ignore them, but they're going to gum down my system. They're going to make me have to work those, which takes away time from the good claims that I could actually win. So now I have all these man hours tied up in claims that I might not make any money on at all, and less man hours on claims that I know that I could make money on. So if I accept just the bullshit claims, I'll probably put myself out of business. And if you start accepting bullshit claims from contractors, it's hard to stop that. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of public adjusters go wrong by accepting the really tough ones up front, unless their goal is just to get better or prove that they know what they're doing. It's very difficult to come back from taking on a bunch of crap claims and getting your entire system just completely bogged down with that. But as a public adjuster that wants new claims from the beginning, which is what I wanted, I would rather go to a contractor, explain all the benefits of using a public adjuster, explain how they have a lot more time on their hands because the public adjuster is doing all these things for them and paying for themselves. And all that they want to do is have your entire book of business. Shitty claims as loyal as good claims, but we get involved from the very beginning so that with those shitty claims, we can set it up properly and not get to the point where it's just complete garbage that really just needs to be handed off to an attorney. So when I'm marketing to contractors, I'm looking for their full book of business. There's a lot of contractors that take offense to that, though. And probably because they've heard a lot of bad things about bad PAs out there that don't know what they're doing, or PAs that made the mistake of taking on too many shit claims and put themselves in a situation where they couldn't actually work anything. That usually happens. I think that happens more to public adjusters than anything else, where they take on too many claims and they can't handle the work because there's too many of them out there and there's not enough PAs. It's easy to accept everything.
I see.
What's the fair pay for claims? Like, if I hire you, what's the range? And in your opinion, what's fair percentage on? You mentioned increase. I see a lot of guys start changing that. It's not only increase of value, there's some other fees I see. What do you think?
Well, this is really state specific. So there are some states that have a lot of leverage, and there's some states that have very, very little. The states that have very little leverage, there's a lot more man hours going into claims. A higher percentage makes sense for those states. The states that have a ton of leverage, where it's a little bit easier and you can go through claims pretty quickly because of timeframes that are set. I think 10% for most public adjusters is perfectly normal. In a lot of those states, that's actually set by the state anyway. You can't go over 10% except for specific circumstances. The most I've seen is like 35%. It's a very large amount. I've never charged that much. I know of a few PAs that have, but a lot of times when they charge a higher percentage, it's because it's a percentage of the increase, that smaller gap, and not just a percentage of the total claim. So my company in Georgia was charging 15% for every new claim, but we also charged 25% of the increase on certain claims. Now, if it was over a certain dollar amount, large commercial losses, that was negotiable. But for the most part, I think it really depends on the state and the market that you're in. So I don't think it's a good idea for everyone to assume that it should always be 10% at every state. And I think that's part of the problem when a contractor, especially that's not in Texas or Florida, starts thinking they need to get a public adjuster involved, and the public adjuster says, well, we charge 15 or 20%. In that state, that might be a reasonable amount, but it automatically makes the contractor pissed off and not want to get involved with the public adjuster at all. A good PA should be able to cover their own fees.
I'm going to put you on the spot. The hardest insurance company to deal with these days. I know it changes all the time, but if you would name not one, which one would it be? In the residential.
I honestly hate answering this question just because of the legal ramifications of it.
Sure.
I'm going to give you my personal experience and opinion. I've always had the most difficulty with the ones that you might be expecting, all states. In Georgia, I've had a lot more problems with farmers insurance than almost every carrier. And it has a lot to do with their policy, the SMART plan. The policy itself has very, very limited coverage in it. Almost no coverage at all. It could be argued that there isn't any coverage in it if they start applying this one thing that I'm not going to say on your show so that they can actually find out what it is. But because that policy is so limited, there's not much that we can do, even though the policyholder purchased insurance with the assumption that they would have normal coverages, and they don't. But that's just the policy more than anything else. But more often than not, when there was coverage, even with that policy, we still had a hard time. But I think that there might have been some aggression towards me personally there. That's just a speculation. I don't know if that's true or not, but the manager over the state of Georgia definitely didn't like me very much.
What most people don't know about insurance?
They don't know that they're not friends with their insurance company. They assume that this company, because they spend billions of dollars on advertising, is going to take care of them. And the reality is, and especially lately, more and more carriers are going down this path where they're putting these gates in front of you to deny as many as they can, knowing that they will only have to pay the ones that are squeaky wheels. If you get through this gate, only a percentage of people that file a claim will get through that one. Put up this gate, only a percentage will get through that one. And more carriers are doing that model. I don't think policyholders realize that that's the case. They don't know. What's really stupid is that most states don't require the insurance company to give someone a copy of the policy before they purchase it. How could anyone know what's in their policy before they buy it? So they have to give money to the carrier just to get a copy of the policy to be able to read through it to decide if they want it. Now they get a grace period where they can say, no, we don't want it after all. But most people are in a hurry to get that because they just bought a house or something.
And that's required.
Yeah.
But giving them paperwork is not required?
Isn't that stupid? So they'll get a copy of the deck page only. Most agents don't even have copies of the policy in their office anyway, and they have no idea what's in it. And what's really bad about all this, 10 years ago, this wasn't a problem, really. Every policy was roughly the same. They're like cookie cutter policies, all ISO form, HO3s, HO5. Now, almost every insurance policy is completely different. You might go into the roofing industry, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. So many people started filing claims, especially roofing claims, even if they were crap claims, the Jello claims we were talking about earlier, consequences of filing act of God claims that aren't real claims. It increases the overhead of the insurance company because they have to investigate those. They're required to investigate. So every time they end up having a lot more claims in one segment, they'll add language to those policies in order to limit their exposure. And eventually the policies just became very, very different. So one policy to the next is very different. You can't make any assumptions on what is covered and what isn't anymore. You used to be able to get away with that for the most part 10, 15 years ago. Not so much anymore. Almost every policy really needs to have a lot of attention to it. Public adjusters have to really read those things. My CRM has a thing about every insurance policy in it with my notes on what's in that policy. And that's a specific form number. This is the 2012 908 form from this carrier. If I get a deck page in and it tells me what the form number is and that form number is different, I have to get a copy of that policy because I don't know what's in it. It's going to be completely different from the exact same policy 2 years ago. Every time something renews, they get new language in it and it changes and it's complex. And you've got this policy and then this endorsement deletes this and adds this and then changes just this line here and adds that. And then this one deletes this endorsement that deleted that originally, but now it adds this. Why don't they take that and just put it in the original form and hand it to you and make it easy for you to read? They're supposed to be easy to read.
See, I still don't agree that it's a roofing industry because if numbers don't add up, if you look at the profits like of Allstate, $3 billion a year, that's the profit. But if you look at the payouts for all the work they do, I mean, you're talking about like $5 billion. I mean, the number's just not there. They collect, State Farm collects $65 billion. Allstate collects $35 billion. They're sitting on the money. The money should be going to roofing. So yeah, roofing is not nearly, like if you would tell me, Dmitry, they used to pay $5 billion, now they pay $25 billion. Because of that, they can't do it anymore. But yeah, they were paying maybe $3 billion, now they're paying $4 billion. They're still profitable. I think they're profit driven more than anything. I feel like there's more like management changes. That's what happened to USSA. Like USSA used to be good, but when they hire, like imagine if you were running a roofing business and I come to you and say, hey man, you're wasting your time on this work and you're doing this, like change your business and you're gonna be more profitable. You start listening to me, but a lot of times when you do, like I might not be the good guy to your consumers. I'm a good guy to you. I want you to be profitable. But sometimes I'll say, hey, don't do this work. It's not good for you. Do this instead. And I feel like that's what's happening. There are management firms telling these insurance companies, like if you would put a dollar amount on each gate you mentioned earlier, okay, we install like this roadblock and it's going to filter 10% of the claims. We're talking about millions in savings. One more roadblock, one more saving for them. That's, I think,
right.
The problem.
You're not wrong.
But I also agree that
property insurance for homes and well, at least for residential. I don't know if it's true for commercial. Property insurance was never meant to be profit. It was always a loser proposition. They make money on auto. That's why they always want you to buy your home with an auto policy. Really? And they make a ton of money on auto. They always want your auto. And in order to incentivize you to buy their auto policy, they'll take your home as well. They don't make money on the property side. They never really have. So when their overhead goes up on the property side, something has to adjust with it. Because overall, they're profitable. Overall, they're a profitable company.
But not from homes.
But not from that particular segment. Now, whether or not that's caused by roofers, I don't know. I don't know for sure. But there is evidence that they think it is, based on the way the laws are written today that specify roofers for stuff. Why are they singling out roofers instead of just contractors as a whole?
Well, and I see why. I mean, roofing is the biggest item. I mean, it's 80% of the claims probably, if you have to guess. It's not gutters or siding.
Yeah.
And we're also the most ruthless one. Like we're the door knockers. We're the most aggressive ones. We're the one who will fight. Gutter guy is not gonna go and fight. Window company not gonna fight insurance company, hire PA, and hire.
I'm picturing this awesome gutter versus roofer tournament right now. There's some massive gutter guy watching this at this moment, and he's thinking, "I'm gonna."
Gutter guys, you're soft. No, gutter guys. They're gutter guys. First of all, there's not too many of them. I mean, well, like how many? Like, gutter guy can do 4 gutters a day, like gutter jobs. It's a roofing, and they don't have capital. They don't need to sell. They don't need to push. I mean, if you look at the gutter business, it's very simple. I mean, think about gutter cover business, even simpler. And you can make millions of dollars in it, but you're not going to be fighting insurance. And plus, homeowners don't care for that. They're not going to file a claim in it. Like
Not for gutters.
Not for gutters. Roof is where the money is.
You're right, and that's why there's so many claims for it, though.
No, I see. Well, I see your point too, and I feel like they needed enemy because if insurance companies are regulated, so in order for them to raise but in order for them to raise prices, they need a reason. So we roofers could be that reason. If they show on paper increase in disasters and stuff like that, they'll do that.
They'll actually pay out more in claims over a year on purpose just to show that their outgo is higher when they present to the Department of Insurance to increase their rates. Yeah, and then they'll stop paying claims suddenly the second their rates go up because they got what they wanted. They don't need to pay they don't need to pay claims anymore. But no, they mess with their numbers. It's definitely bean counters doing everything. I think bean counters as a whole, as a profession, they're all evil, right?
No comment on that. So today you do podcast, you create content, you kind of threw yourself out there. By the way, amazing channel. I like the branding. You do it right. Like you do what I teach. I tell people, don't just start selfie videos. Like be professional, have a game plan. Have an outline when you turn on the camera. Not many do.
I don't do that actually.
Well, when you listen, when I listen to you, it's a clear message, it's a clear title. How did it change your life, and why did you decide to throw yourself out there, like in the content world?
I'm going to do the second question first. Sure. I decided to do that, like most people, because I thought I would gain more business from it. By putting myself out there, I would gain
Chet was right.
I'm a shill, for sure. That was the original intent. Okay. I found that I really liked it. I didn't expect that. I've always gained more business by helping than by withholding. Always. I think that's true for any industry. But what surprised me was that by helping other people, and there's so many people I've helped with zero return. So I might be a shill, or I'm not a shill. But what was the second part of that question? Oh, how did that change my life? Well, since I started doing those videos, the better ones, and I really started having fun with it. When it stopped being me trying to be real serious and get a message out, and I just started having fun doing it because I enjoyed it, I started putting out kind of silly videos to go along with it. Then I had some attention from some larger firms that then wanted me to do that primarily. So we made some agreements, and my company has merged with C3 Group, a very large firm out of Colorado. And it's allowed me to just focus on the Listen to This Bull content and now National Claims Institute, so that we can start creating coursework for public adjusters and contractors and attorneys and insurance adjusters. Basically anybody that does anything with insurance restoration claims. We've got courses that are being developed right now to teach anything and everything first-party property claims related.
Oh, so it opened doors for you.
Oh, big time, big time. So now I get to do, honestly, my favorite part of claims handling, which was being helpful. And I was doing this with insurance adjusters on site. I was teaching them quite a bit in a tactful way. Sometimes I had to be a bulldog, but it was rare.
What's up with the name? Listen to the book.
So I made a really shitty logo when I first got started as a public adjuster. You know how all the restoration companies, they have like the water and the fire, and then like maybe like a mold symbol. It's like multiple symbols. Maybe they merge them into one. Well, I did that. I was cliche as hell, and I did that for my public adjustment firm. And so I had fire, I had water, and I had a snowflake to represent hail. And the fire and the water had this little exterior curve. My wife said, it looks like bull horns. I was like, I fucking know what my slogan's gonna be. Let us deal with the bull. And so that was my slogan for a long time. And I had my brother, who does a lot of graphic art, artistry, graphic arts. I don't know.
Design.
Thank you. And you're the foreigner. Figures. My brother, who does graphic design, he made the bull for me with the fire and the water horn to represent what it was before. But let us deal with the bull has been our slogan for a very long time. It's on the side of my van with my bull logo and All Good Adjustments, the PA firm that I had. And it was a lot of fun watching insurance adjusters read that for the first time. It's always fun. My favorite part of being in the field was watching their face when they read, let us deal with the bull, and their face would go. But then I was friendly with them, and they didn't get what they expected, and we ended up being friends most of the time. So
Nice. Love
I
the story.
definitely am not an asshole with them on site.
What advice would you give to someone who maybe thinking about getting on YouTube or starting a podcast, start creating content for masses?
You might be the first person to ask me that. I've never thought of myself as an expert in that field. Brand. Find something. Branding happened to me automatically. The beard is recognizable. I was already freaking wearing this hat constantly. It's just something I've always done because I'm usually in the field. And I have to have a sun hat, and I just happen to like this particular model of hat, so I've ordered it over and over again. Somehow the hat became synonymous with my face, and now I have to wear it all the time. But it was branding. The bull just happened, the slogan just happened, and I ran with it. Now I've got listed to this bull to go with the branding. We talk about bullshit all the time. If you're trying to get into this, I think that the biggest thing to do is figure out what sets you apart physically, because that's the easiest thing to jump on first, and maybe add something to your attire. Roof Hustler has the bow tie. What do you got?
I'm
No?
just being Russian.
It's the Russian
Charisma,
thing.
smile. I don't know.
Yeah?
No, I don't have anything. But
It's the accent. I think.
But I do like. Maybe it's an accent, but I
Yeah.
do like to embrace the difference, to embrace the hobby. Like like if you like snowmobiles, talk about it. Let people know something outside of you. Or like I do CrossFit. Like I'm not gonna be shy about it. Like and that's what I feel like people connect most to. Like if you think about like Elon Musk, he's a gamer. Like I was test driving Tesla the other day, and the sales guy told me, well, Elon is a gamer, so of course you can play computer games in a car. I'm like people think about Elon Musk
didn't
is
know
a
that.
gamer.
Can you really?
What?
While driving?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, like that, it's installed, it's there. So
I'm never going to be able to get one. My wife will kill me.
But that's the thing. People, when we think about
Wow.
people, we think about their background and what they do. Like when people think about Dmitry, they think about fit guy, Russian, like wherever immigrant. I always tell my story that I was homeless 15 years ago, and I live American dream. Like I want people to remember that, like versus that I build a business or that like I build a YouTube channel. I mean, this is the product, but this is not who I am. Who you are is more important than what you do. And when people follow you, like they will remember that. Like they will, I don't know.
I think you got a point there. I mean, that's all part of branding, is just being yourself. find out what it is that makes you unique and go with that. And maybe it's not that unique, but it allows someone to relate with you.
Exactly.
But just put whatever that is out there and run with it. Because if you do the same thing over and over again, then you get known for that, and that's how branding happens.
Everyone is afraid to call out insurance companies publicly. What I see is happening. Public adjusters, contractors are tired, frustrated, especially in a few markets like Chicago, where like this year everybody's complaining how bad State Farm is, and it's like they denying everything. Everyone I talk to keeps saying that they're denying. Yet when I tell people publish the story, just go like on record, like make that video. It's like, hey, this is obvious damage. What advice would you give to someone, and what's the legality? Where do you draw the line? Like if carrier 100% denying claim, like bad faith claim, whatever, like, and I want to make it public. Like I want to create content about it, but everybody's afraid to get sued by $1 billion company, right? But at the same time, if you watch news stories about, like I remember in Florida, it was in the news, they ran the story of a lady dying her last few years. She spent in a home that was completely destroyed after the flood. So there was hurricane damage, house got flooded, insurance company kept delaying, like not paying properly, wherever. So she was like 80s, 90s, like very old lady. And last 3 years, she spent in house with mold, like never been fixed. And the reason is because insurance company took 3 years to pretty much drag that claim. And I was thinking about it, you know what, that's a great story. And they actually mentioned insurance company, I believe it was State Farm. So they went all in, it's like, this is not how we should be treated like our elders. This is just wrong. So they were not afraid. And I'm like, well, if you reverse engineer that story, someone probably wrote a press release. Someone reached out to news company and say, hey, look what happens here. And I love it. And I feel like the more noise that we make, because they're outspending us, million to one with all the marketing campaigns they have, and yet we outnumber them, we can become influencer, we can go to public and start changing narratives. Like, no guys, look at this. So it would be like a known thing. Remember back in the day, Liberty Mutual used to run a campaign when there's a car accident, they come in like pay on the spot. They would actually, and it was known thing, like, oh, Liberty Mutual pays every time. Well, if we create a content where it's like, okay, another State Farm denial, look at this claim, and make it public, will they sue us? Can they sue us? Because here's the thing, everybody's afraid to make that content, but I've never heard State Farm or Allstate suing actually contractor for creating video, but like documenting, sharing the story. Like if you think about that old lady dying in a destroyed house, I don't think State Farm could actually sue that ABC News for covering the story. Investigation is in the States. There's journalism, there is, story. It's a basic storytelling.
I think there's some protection there for media companies or journalists, though, legally. I think that they can do a few things that a normal person can't. Now, I'm not a lawyer.
But we are media companies
You're asking me what the laws are, and to be honest, I just have to say that.
What's
That's the shitty part.
What's YouTube slogan? People forgot about it. Broadcast yourself. Like every business, I believe, should be a media company. And I can cover it.
I was thinking that while you were talking about it. When do you have to register yourself as a media company in order to gain those protections, or are you automatically a media company when you're presenting something as media that isn't an advertisement or a solicitation? Maybe. I can tell you this though, every roofer on the planet talks about, you've heard all snake many, many times, but they still get more business. I don't know if our industry is big enough to make enough stink without having a lot of stories similar to that one that you're talking about.
But here's what I see. I'm not even talking about roofers. I'm talking about roofers would not talk to a guy like me. When I want to cover a story, they're like, I don't want to be in the camera. And so it seems to me that we pretty much accepted defeat. We're like, you know what? We're not going to talk about it. Everybody is So here's what's happening. People like, Dmitry, can you run this story? Like, here's something happening. Allstate denying all claims and say, so they want me to cover it. They would not help
They want
me
you to
with
take
it.
the risk, not them.
Yeah.
So
You're the public adjuster.
I'm a public adjuster, but I'm also I'm president of GAPIA, the Georgia Association of Public Insurance Adjusters.
Yeah.
And when I am doing anything where I'm representing GAPIA, I definitely have to watch what I say a lot more. When I'm acting in a capacity where I am, listen to this bull, in a media capacity, I can get away with a lot more too. I can make conjecture, I can speculate. But if you're going to call someone out for doing something, it has to be factual, or at least to the best of your knowledge. Now, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if any of this is really true, and you really should not take my legal advice. But by saying what I just said, I've now given myself a little bit of leeway to say some stuff that might not be true. So any roofer could really probably do the same thing and say, disclaimer, 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 I'm not an attorney, this is an opinion, whatever, and then they can say what they need to say and probably have some protections. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, really, but I don't know. I'm with you on this, though. If all of us came out and did something about it and it became a story that went viral, hopefully, then that carrier that was called out, I mean, State Farm right now, they really are nationwide. They've changed. Line in the sand. We were doing it this way. We decided we were interpreting our own policy wrong that we wrote somehow, and now we're doing it this way. And it's not our fault. And our policy, whatever, it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Mm-hmm. And they're getting away with that. I can't believe there isn't a class action lawsuit already.
Nobody's calling them accountable. Nobody's talking about it. We're not making enough noise, I feel. I mean, that's what's happening. Like, it's you, me, like everybody in their rooms. We're not united. We don't have a union. We don't have representation. We're afraid to put it on YouTube for the public to know. You know, what's actually happening is when you start making YouTube videos or like, it could be podcasts, could be whatever. Sure. What's happening is you build community of likewise people. People actually see your thoughts and your agenda, and you're like, I agree with that guy, and they subscribe and they follow, and it's like snowball. And they go, and then it's just like this, like, hey guys, I need your help. Like, this Friday we're gonna be there, and boom, 100 people showed up because you've been, pushing something.
Yeah.
I think most roofers underestimate the power of like us being united, and everybody's afraid. Everybody's like afraid to be next guy who gonna get a legal paperwork, which is, nobody's been sued yet, but everybody afraid to be sued. I mean, or maybe like
it's not like they have signed a contract where they can't say anything negative about the insurance company or something.
Exactly. Like that's exactly the case. And that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, no, it is kind of odd, but they're thinking about how big this company is, and David versus Goliath, that company could, with all of their funds, could easily make your life a living hell. They do it to their own clients.
But think about what all those denials are doing to you in your life right now. Like, yeah. If you're quiet and you're not doing anything, what's the opportunity there? Because it is getting worse. Like, it's not getting any easier. It's only getting worse.
I think if you're doing it, this is pure speculation, but if you're doing this from a media perspective, you could probably get away with saying a lot. If you're an organization that is accusing somebody of something officially, better have your shit right, or it's not going to go well for you. There's organizations like the APA, the American Policyholder Association. They have this one major win that started them all off, and they haven't had that major win since then because they have to get all their shit together and make sure that they're on the right path when they accuse the next thing, because they've got a huge target on their backs. Absolutely. Because they became an organization. So this group of people got together in order to stand up against insurance carrier fraud. And now, because they have that target on their backs, if they get it wrong, if they accuse someone and it's wrong, they're screwed. They have to get it right. the very next time especially, they have to get it right. So if you're going to get together as an organization just to broadcast that something isn't right, there's probably not too much to be concerned about. And I think that that's a good thing for us to be able to do. And I think we should do that.
Absolutely.
But if you're an organization actually accusing somebody, that'd be something completely different.